the web of life.
Let me try from the first to indicate the point that we're aiming at. The point is this, that human consciousness is at the same time as being a form of awareness and sensitivity and understanding, it's also a form of ignorance.
If you look closely at your thoughts, you begin to realize that they're not yours. And then once you recognize that you aren't your thoughts, like they don't belong to you, you realize that they come from somewhere and they're transmitted. But the part of you that is real does get to select them and does get to create this sphere around you of your thoughts, and these are what are hovering around you in your day-to-day life. An example of that would be like someone who has an addiction, right? When you're trying to get over an addiction, it's forgetting about the addiction. It's not fighting against it, right? So in this sphere that we create, it's all of our hovering thoughts. And your existence, like, so to, you know, that's my polarity thing. You don't fight war. You don't be an anti-war person to overcome war. You forget about it. And the world, the universe tells you you're a horrible person if you forget about it, but it's no, I'm creating new, right? So your sphere of thought can be curated. That being said, when it's pure, it can be penetrated. And when it's penetrated with new ideas and new creation, that's when you're tapping into this collective unconsciousness. And so you can witness how that happens. But again, like, these thoughts come from nowhere. The words coming out of my mouth, like, they don't belong to me either. There are things that have come in and they're just bouncing off. It's pretty interesting that when you really observe where they come from. And the reason I bring that up is because when you stop attaching yourself to the memory of yourself and the things that you once thought were you, then you become the vessel for new. Then you become this like transmission into this world.
I think what you're saying is so vital, and actually it's a bit of been my experience, I'd say, with some conversations I've been having. Can't really go into depth at the moment with them, but there is that attachment to the nostalgia of these memories, and having to release that and to be to release in the sense of that resistance of those beliefs, I don't know, those values, to be more open to what is channeling through me. Like, I felt like I was being channeled last night or this morning, whatever time that was. I guess that's like the Abraham Hicks thing, which I've talked to you about, is you know, she's like this vessel, she's receiving information. I believe I receive information all the time, and that's where a lot of my reflections come from. Though I guess one of my struggles, which you're just helping me with now, is still that attachment to nostalgia of these memories that you have with like what you've experienced with a person. And that could be, and I think at one day, if I hadn't done this, like continuously do this inner work within myself and figuring out whatever it is I'm trying to figure it out, I would probably be really stuck on, no, these are my values, these are my beliefs, and they're not negotiables. And I think you've said this already, like I've shifted away from that, but I still have my moments where I regress. And then I think I'm probably blocking, then I'm not the vessel anymore, because I'm staying stuck with that. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but at any point in time, you can look back and say, I now proclaim that everything that has happened, all the times that I've closed myself off to the universe, were a part of the lens that I choose to see the world moving forward, and that liberates you, right? So it's like, okay, from this point, this is the prescription that I needed in order to get to the place that I need to be, right? These are the different prescriptions of the lens that help me return home. This is my light bouncing off these different elements, and these are the different, tints that have been blocked ultimately to redirect me to where I need to go. You can choose for that to be now, right? And we are here experiencing all, so like that is what you're here to experience. You're here to close that path and to feel that separation, ultimately to really rejoice, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. But I know that's what I need. And that's, for me, I look at that as, that's really the only way forward. Moving forward for me, that what's my own wherewithal, my own well-being, to open myself up.
Yeah.
To new perspectives. And I always have been open to new perspectives. And new ways of thinking.
Yeah, and that's why that practice also eliminates the ego fundamentally. You're simultaneously becoming genius while your ego completely fades away because you recognize that it has nothing to do with you. You are just the observer.
Absolutely. Ego came up quite a few times.
Yeah, and when things come out of you like that and you're acknowledging this higher power that's just coming through you, again, that's just strengthening your interconnectedness with this experience that we're all going through, right? Like, you really are a quality of something that is inseparable from me. We've gone into this last podcast, but the more you consciously are aware of that, the more you feel tapped in, and the more compassion you feel, and the more...
for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Though I guess part of my struggle with definitely that compassion for myself and looking inward, 100%. Though, say, I guess what I said to this person was, this can stay on the podcast, and if this person chooses to listen to it.
Like which person?
A person that I'm thinking about and talking about right now. Just some conversations I've been having with this person, and and this may seem harsh, but I said, I'm where I am, and I know what I know. You are where you are, and you know what you know. There's no judgment, and there's no right or wrong. It just is. With that, I feel we can't have a conversation moving forward unless you open up your mind and release the ego, and be as if you're aware of it. I'm making you aware of it, but not making you. I'm asking you to be aware of it, but it's your choice to be aware of it or not. But I think it's hard to have those deep, heartfelt / truth discussions with somebody if they're not willing to look inward. And so I said those things. I said, well, I don't think you're willing to look inward, and your ego's protecting you. That's your defense mechanism. This person was offended, and this person thought I was being insensitive, and they thought I was being unkind. And again, I sort of take a step. I was like, no. So I guess the struggle for me is like, in order to move forward in this conversation, if we want to move forward to figure out where we're at in our friendship, then this is where I am. So, and again, you get to where you get to. So then there's that perspective as well. So I hope that comes across as compassion, but I also need to, in a sense, like, this is my energy. How much energy can I put into convincing somebody? I shouldn't be doing that. I can offer perspective. I can, because we're in a conversation together, so there's perspectives going back and forth, that when somebody has their ego up way too strong, it's really hard to have a real, authentic conversation when there's truth.
I would say in that situation, yeah, I mean, you're curating your environment and the people that you're surrounding yourself with.
Absolutely.
That being said, I would challenge you on that. Not that you're right or wrong, just to think about a new perspective that was coming to mind as you were talking it through, which is the best way to witness the universe. Like, what we're doing is, over time, we're developing this image of what a perfect world could be, and we're trying to bring that into our existence, into our reality. And so the more we think about somebody as not having achieved their own element of perfection, the further that takes us away from the attainment of that thing. So if we imagine the person, the counterpart, the friend in this situation who hasn't achieved this level of aptitude then then that creates a point of detention. Like, we have to see people in their perfection if we want to help them.
Yeah.
If we want to help people, and if we want to bring the universe to that perfect state, we have to consistently imagine them coming from that state and where they're going into that perfection. So when that's challenging, when it's taking away from your energy, for sure, like, we're human beings, like, we're trying, like, this is our big attempt. So it makes sense for that to be like something to overcome. And so I don't think, like, I'm not saying that you have to be perfect every day, because I struggle with this too at times.
Yeah.
But the way forward truly would be to imagine that person sitting across from you in their perfect state, right? They are perfect as they are entering your presence. Someone tries to give me advice every time we talk, and it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of absolute love. But it makes me second guess my actions and the way that I'm deciding to curate my life.
Yeah.
And so what they don't realize is this love of wanting to give and give advice is taking me away from what genuinely feels like my perfection. And it's such a paradox. So again, the best way to help somebody is to encounter them as if they are in their perfected state, because then they are more sovereign in their little sphere of energy.
I love that. That's perfect. That's what I needed to hear today. That was super helpful. And I knew I could come to you with this, and you'd give me, and it's even hearing it, I'm a little bit like, I'm not going to fight against what you just said. It's like, no, this is a very new perspective. I'm super on that wavelength, and it just gives you like this placeholder of like, okay, I need to, and it does hold space, I guess, and there's that level of like having understanding and compassion for that. Just for everyone comes up there. This person's coming at me with the level of his own perspective, perfection, and other people in my life, and what you just touch upon is I am cultivating. And I was talking to Michelle about this yesterday, and she said the same thing you just said. And I said, I was like, this is the message. This is what I'm going through this moment. And then your message came through, and I was like, this is what I'm cultivating. My connections with someone like you, like someone like Michelle, like that's what I'm cultivating. And then you have something that's challenging you. So I don't want to just say, shut it down and say, this is not worth it, or I don't want to deal with this. It's like, no, there's something here, there's information here. It's challenging me in a way that I need to learn more about myself and how I can navigate that in a way that's meaningful and intentional. Maybe my response was more of a reaction at first, and then I do think, like young Pueblo would say, your reaction is actually not who you are, typically. If you go back into the responsive mode and fix that behavior, or change that behavior, or have a realization of like, okay, I behave that way, what can I do to better show up for myself, better show up for this person, and learn from that. So,
if something's really hindering you, like if it is really truly hindering you, then like part ways, right?
Part ways, release, have faith.
But just releasing, trusting.
Releasing and trusting.
Yeah.
A lot of trust in that.
Yeah.
I do believe at some level that if things are a hindrance, if they feel like a hindrance, and you've put that effort in, that and you are coming at me in your perfection, and I appreciate you for that. However, sometimes we need to, I'm riding my wave, and your wavelength is different than mine, and we're no longer serving each other in that connection or that friendship. And once you release that, it may or may not come back, and if it doesn't, it wasn't meant to be that person forever, or until you transition into the universe. But it does open yourself up to other people that you want to cultivate, other relationships you want to cultivate. And because if we put so much time and effort into things that aren't serving you, then we're not allowing those opportunities to come. I believe that anyway, allowing to come for us. And focusing on what you love and what makes you happy, and what brings you joy. So, and that's, people say, well, I don't know. I'm like, you do know. You just have to believe that you, or no, maybe not believe, whatever. You have to just know that it's your, if you talk about it, and you walk down the street and you think about it, you go for a run, whatever it is that you do to channel yourself to manifest, to meditate, in your way that you meditate, your love for things will come for you.
Yeah, that's a really, really important one. There are two things I want to say on that. So the first is the acknowledgement of the things you spend your time on and the things that bring you joy, and the second is starting with a decision and using the direction. So the first part of that, take inventory of your life and where you focus your time and energy and the things that really, really fulfill you. And if you haven't created a hobby out of that, or you don't have any circles involved with that, figure out a way to get involved. Figure out a way to put yourself in the universe where that is a part of the experience, because that's where the magic happens. You'll meet somebody, you'll bump into somebody, you'll hear somebody say something, you'll develop a skill, you'll develop a practice. It puts you in that world so that you can blossom, right? So that you can plant the seed and you can blossom. You have to plant the seed. Then there's okay, there are all these things I like. I like so many things. How do I choose? And it's like, you choose one. You choose one. You have to choose something. So you just choose one. And you start working towards it. And even if it doesn't feel like it's the perfect one, it'll become you as you get there. Some amazing things have come my way, and within the last week. But what happened was I had a very simple idea, right? 2 modalities in the health and wellness space. And I said, okay, I'm doing this. And then while I had that direction, I also had this challenge that I gave myself, which was to remove all limiting beliefs. So I used that direction, but on top of that, I said, how do I make this as big and grand as possible? And so as all my ideas were flowing to this one direction, it became more and more and more and more me. More and more me. How much can I give? How much of myself can I give and contribute to this idea in this direction? So that is a really good way to become, like, bring this idea, bring this part of you into reality. The last thing I would say there, and I'm talking to my former self, right? I'm talking to my former self. The knowledge came, the expertise came, the relationships came, but it all came back to, like, throwing a direction and just working towards it and working my ass off and not worrying about how it's going to come to fruition.
Right.
Ultimately, that's the journey, right? That's the journey. And since you picked one of those things that were surrounding you that you enjoy, you're not wasting any of your time. You're just immersing yourself more in it. It doesn't feel like work. And there's something about making a decision that's out in the future and having a direction where everything you're compelled to do after that point, like when you're acting subconsciously, is aligning with that direction. I didn't know that a podcast would be part of my journey, but that just happens to be an outlet, right? So it's funny, like, everything I'm compelled to do is a part of this grand direction that I've created for myself. So it's not being afraid, right? It's trusting that you're going to be a magnet for everything you need in order to perform at the point you need to perform it. Just keep going. Keep going. And that's what I would say.
And the key, you said many keywords, but one of the main keywords that just came to bring up is creation. We can create what we want and who we want to be. There's choice. That's your decision. To create an alignment. You did so much alignment with yourself, and that's magic. And the how, we focus too much on the how and then the outcome, rather than diving into the process of, that's what's so exciting. And I remind myself of this, I remind other people, the process of it is so vital. That's where you learn so much about yourself. That's where the opportunities flow in. As in, like, the podcast that just sort of, it was meant to happen the way it happened. And you started aligning yourself well before I met you. And I definitely was aligning myself in other ways. And then we also took that inspired action. And even though it was still, like, super scary to think, I'm doing this, jumping off the cliff of just giving something a try, and knowing that it's not work. This is actually, even though it's work in some ways, like in the Montessorian way, but it's loving what you do for that type of work. And knowing that this will open up more doors and bring us more opportunities, whatever that looks like, is, as soon as we start getting more sponsors and more sponsors. See, I'm already envisioning it. Sponsors are kind of going to be coming. But yeah, we're putting ourselves on that wavelength, that realm of growth and expansion. There was an opportunity to go to a movie recently, and I was like, I have no desire to go watch that. How is that going to nourish me? How is that going? You can always find silver linings. Don't get me wrong. You can always, that's what you do, and that's who you are, and that's fine. But for me, yeah, I want to be nourished. I want to find things that resonate with me, and I'm also very happy to sit in silence and be still.
Yeah.
Which I love doing. And I do think that's also a trust muscle that you have to build and be okay with, sitting still, allowing what comes comes through you. So yeah, I
think you really touched on the other element that I didn't necessarily articulate in that, right? It's once you have a direction, your intuition is allowed to guide you, right? And so when you have opportunities to do all these other things, you'll really know when you're aligned and when you're not aligned. I love art, obviously, which is such an annoying thing to say when I hear myself say it. But I grew up on movies. I grew up painting. I grew up creating things. And we talked about moody music in a previous episode, right? The power of songs. There are so many creations out there that I would love to go and experience, but at the same time, my gut is telling me certain things that I need to filter out of my life right now in order to do the work that I'm here to do right now. I'm on a life path, and I need to do certain work that can't be interrupted by certain outside influences. But my devotion to experiencing how this universe works is way more fascinating to me than watching that movie that was recommended to me. That is a little bit of a sacrifice, but I do believe this is part of the process of getting to that direction. I've chosen a lifeline. I feel aligned. I feel really good, and I'm exploring. And so it's such a minimal cost. It's that seductive thing that's hey, are you gonna waver away, right? Are you gonna waver away because that cake will taste really good. That movie was profound, but it's going to create a little bit of darkness in you, right? So these are things that I need to filter out and make sure that sphere of me, that hovering thought world I live in, has the inertia necessary to put me in the place I need to be. And what's cool is the more you do that filtering is the better you feel.
Absolutely. The hell yes and the hell no.
Yeah.
That is not a hell yes. And listen, and as you said, when you align, that intuition is so strong. And then, for whatever reason, the distractions or somebody that wants to make you feel guilty for not participating in that, whatever that is, the more you build in that muscle of but I don't really want to do that. And it's okay that I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I would rather do this, and that something else is speaking to me. And that's been going on with me for a very long time, and it feels so good. And it's okay that I go off routine for a bit, and then I know that I'm the kind of person that generally can come back to it and find that harmony once again, and not be so, it's like that I don't know, when people say they go to McDonald's and they order the Big Mac and then the extra big French fries. I don't know. I haven't eaten at McDonald's in 20 years, but
I was a Filet-O-Fish guy. It's my deepest insecurity. But they're fucking good. The buns are like pillows. Okay, go ahead.
That's so funny. I love that, pillows. I've never had the Filet-O-Fish.
All right, pause. We're gonna go on a road trip.
We have some road trips. We need to be taking stock of this.
Go ahead with this. I don't want to take you off your shoe.
That's okay. You'll have to come back to that. I'm curious. That'd be funny. And then they're like, oh, but I'll get the Diet Coke. It's well, all of those calories and those grease and and then that, but then it's counteracted by a Diet Coke. And I'm more like, I'm the person where I do really good during the week when it comes to like eating and exercising and really nourishing myself in these, this kind of way. And then I have fun on the weekends, but I'm pretty good at like Monday morning. I get back on the routine, but I've done this for years. And then I don't always go off the rails on the weekends, but there's just sometimes I do, and I think I'm doing it later in life after having children and the kids are older. Not that I'm making excuses, it's just where I'm at. But I am pretty good and very good about getting back onto my routine and knowing what I want to be doing for myself. But the more and more I do even more alignment, like I've been doing the last year and a half, I feel less inclined to do, the nightclubs and big party scenes.
Well, yeah. Well, I love to party. Like I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying right now it's not in my immediate path. Right? People might look at what that universe I've described looks like right now and what I'm up to and say, give yourself balance, let it easy. But it's like I genuinely won't enjoy myself as much as if I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
Right.
There will be a time for it because it is a part of who I am. It's a part of what I like to do. Like I've always been the host. I've always loved to throw a party. I've always loved to bring people together. It's like these are the steps I need to do, and since I'm going with the flow, this is what I'm up to because this is what's necessary to get to the next level. The other thing I wanted to say, in just looking back, I should point out that I was lucky, right? Like I was able to make a 180 in life, and all my friends believed in me. All my family believes in me. And I haven't necessarily made millions and millions of dollars yet. I don't necessarily have a national portfolio of studios yet. And everyone, like, not for a second looked at me and had any doubts that it would be successful. And so what's awesome for me and why I'm so fortunate is, yes, I wouldn't have let them tell me that I would be successful. I wouldn't have let them tell me that I'd be a failure. Right. But at the same time, it was so easy because everyone believed in me. And so the fact that I had people to take me in, all these things, it makes it easy. And so if there is someone listening who thinks it's hard, first of all, I hear you. It's hard. It can be hard. I hear you. But I've had enough evidence to know that once you align, the universe comes to meet you. You will get there. Something will come in. You have to let something help you. The hand will be extended.
I'm totally on board with that, and everyone has their stories as to people who may or may not believe in you, and it's their insecure, whatever they are, their insecurities, their lack of knowledge, ignorance, whatever. Also, people, this is from my perspective, people don't always want to see you grow. But the people that you are aligned with obviously do want to see you grow. But then there are people who you thought you were aligned with, and they
thank God they do,
don't.
Because then those aren't people you want to be around.
Absolutely, that's a lesson. Yeah,
that's a gift, right?
So
but then there's also patterns, right? So I'm actually going to post on my Instagram this podcast, and I was thinking about this a lot because I didn't necessarily want clout, right? And that's why I did it. I had this fascination with, like just being rich and anonymous, right? And being able to go and get a coffee and like no one talk about it.
Right.
And what I've realized is I had this whole profession about how the most growth happens when you're vulnerable. And so what a hypocrite I'd be if I say that and I don't do things that make me incredibly vulnerable intentionally. So the vulnerability here, in this case, just to tie it back to what we were talking about, would be me putting this out, but not being fearful of what's going to happen because there's a pattern of polarity and you just separate yourself from that. You don't let it affect you. So what'll happen is, go to my Instagram, we'll call it, because I'm not a social media guy. I'll post that I have this. 50% of everybody will love it. 50% of everyone will hate it and talk shit and try and bring me down, right? But it's recognizing the pattern. That is what comes with the fruits of taking the next step. That polarity creates the wall, and when I observe and I grow, then I recognize that wall as a stair, and that stair takes me where I need to go. And so that's the pattern. So consciously, before doing this, I know there's going to be little circles where people are talking shit. And then there's going to be friends who like it and say, man, that resonates. And I don't want anything other than for people to do their own thing. I hope everyone's so busy doing their own thing that they don't really give a shit what I'm doing, right? But that's the thing that I acknowledge before going into that. And just to lastly respond to what you were saying, if you have, there's a Cat Williams. You know who Cat Williams is?
Yeah.
He's a comedian. He says, ladies, ladies, if you got 14 women hating on you, you got to figure out how to get to 16 by December, right? That's what it is, right? Because the more hate you have, the more love you have, and that's the world you live in. When people go inward and they're not focused on loving or hating you, they're focused on loving themselves, that's when everyone is in that symbiosis that I once talked about, right? So...
No, I actually want to circle back on some things. I hope I remember all of them. One of them is that just like a testament to you is the vibration that you put out there, in the sense of like people, whether or not they believe in you, whether or not they will support you, because I was saying that I've definitely had people come across and just say in shock, like, you're doing what? Every now, and I just said, yeah, with a big smile, and I love it. I'm so excited, and I just thought, okay, I'm not going to go into depth with this person because this person has resistance for that, and that's fine. It's not on me. So I just keep on doing my own thing and knowing that whatever path I'm on, it feels good for me. So the testament to you is the vibration that you're putting out there with the people that have been supportive of you and your family, like your family and your friends. I think in some ways you're also being like, actually, with conviction, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. So fuck you. Not like in a mean way, but like, fuck you. If you're not on board, you don't need to be on board. I'm not actually looking for your acceptance and I said recently somebody, they're like, oh, well done, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm actually not looking for your acknowledgement. I was just responding to something you said and saying, I've done this inward journey, I don't need you to just tell me well done, like a pat, like a sarcastic pat on the back. I'm like, no, just because you're not looking inward and I'm at a different wavelength than you, not to be a comparison, that's sort of like another tangent, but it's almost like this like, no, this is what I'm doing and there's nothing going to stop me. No one's stopping me. What I'm doing is alignment. It feels good, it feels right, and these will open doors for me. In fact, as much as people will think whatever they think and feel the way they feel, I'm a role model. You're a role model for people that will like inspire other people to be like, oh, you're doing that? How did you do it? Like, tell me your da-da-da. That's what I want. I want people to be like, oh, that sounds exciting. And I told 2 people over the weekend, not 2 men, I don't really know who they are. One was like somebody Michelle and I met sitting at Mona Migebi. He was like, you're doing what? That's so exciting. He literally picked up his phone. He's like, what is it called? Looked us up, and then was following right then and there. He gave me a fist pump and he was like, keep going. I mean, he doesn't even know who I am, and then another person was a friend of Michelle's, also following not only the Instagram page. He was like, and he texted me twice. He's like, what is this page called? He's like, keep going, so proud of you, never met him before, like this is my first time ever meeting him. And it feels so good. So part of like it loops into, I think at the beginning I've been, as you've pointed out, very kindly, that I've been very vulnerable and open, and you've been like our Daft Punk in this situation. And and I've had people say, well, who is this person? What does he look like? What's his name? And I was like, give him time. He'll come around when he's ready. I have a lot of patience with things like this. I'm like, well, his voice is his voice, his vibe is his vibe. So I support whatever he needs to do for himself. And if he wants to remain anonymous and whatever, then that's his journey. But I also love the curiosity of other people about who you are.
It's just fun.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
But they're like telling me like, you guys should have to do it this way. And I was like, no, we don't.
Yeah, we don't.
I was like, I have so much faith in him, knowing that whatever path we're on right now, it's going to be amazing. Yeah. In fact, we're going to break those boundaries of like what the normal podcaster does or doesn't do. And I was like, I feel good about this. Like I said, I have no concerns at all. Why would I? I have no fear. I actually have so much faith and whatever comes.
Yeah.
And so I was like, not like defending you, but I was just kind of like, but I was defending you and us, and like, it's okay.
People do want to know these things. People do want to know who they're listening to, and as fun as that would be from an artistic perspective, that's kind of bullshit. So I'll kind of drop that. But going back to the beginning of what you're talking about, if what you're doing, the energy you're using is coming from within you to fuel what you're doing, no one can take it away from you. Yeah. You're not doing it for praise, but the checks and balances is making sure that that's inspiring other people to find that within themselves as well. So we've gone through this line of thinking, and it is good to acknowledge that it's helpful for people. Like what you're doing is helping people find their path. They don't necessarily have to believe what I say, but they recognize that I'm just following my bliss. And by following my bliss, they give themselves permission to do the same thing. I really, really, really could not care less what anybody says about what I'm doing. I really couldn't. I really could not. Okay. But I love people. I really do. And I feel deeply. And I want them to do their thing like I want you to. So it's best that I show my craft at its lowest so that they're not afraid to do the same, right?
Absolutely.
Mike Tyson.
I love that.
Mike Tyson, man, he's a great guy. He's just got so many... He's so soft in the body of a machine, right? And this guy, he has this very short quote, and he says, a lot of people want to be great, but they don't let themselves be a fool. And being a fool is part of the process to greatness. That's not a direct quote, but it's essentially what he says. And that's just, it is the process, right?
And define fool the way you want to define it, but it's absolutely.
Fool is play, right? So we're playing, and it's it's gonna get somewhere. We're gonna align. We're going to figure it out.
That's the jester.
Yeah.
The fool is the jester. Sorry, I just cut you off.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
That's right. That's play. The jester is play.
In Shakespeare, whenever you want to hear something that's actually a legitimate mic drop, a philosophical, higher truth, capital T truth, it's said by a drunk or a jester or a joker. They hint it. They laugh about it. And I believe that whoever wrote the script for the universe wrote it in satire, right? it is the rhythm of the universe. Yeah. The Shakespearean entire dialogue, all of his lectures, all of his poems, the sonnets, or I'm gonna sound like an idiot now, but all of his plays too, were potentially written by the Freemasons at the time, who were all Rosicrucians, alchemists, philosophers, which is profound, right? And I really think that's the pattern here, right? So play, and let yourself become great. And if we don't become great, we got to play.
We got to play. I love that. That's perfect. Can't say anything more than that.
Yeah.
That brings us home.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm a cat.
And it's funny because that, what is that old, whatever that wives' tale is curiosity kills the cat. It's so not right. Be curious, be that cat, ask questions, be open to, and if it does kill you, it's probably worth it. The cat is playing, he's being playful, he's being curious. If it killed him, at least he died playing. Maybe that's why they have 9 lives.
At over Christmas, we played this game. I forgot what it's called, but there are these cards, and they have these questions that everyone goes around and asks, and it's the more you know about somebody, right? So it really opens up some things that you might not have heard about before. One of the there are a bunch of different questions. One of the ones that we all really enjoyed, I think, was, what is your superpower? So everyone around this table goes around and says what your superpower is. But on the animal stream of consciousness, what do you think your animal would be? Do you have a spirit animal that you tap into?
I resonate, and this is probably because maybe more my sign, my Leo, but there's something... Lioness is something I think I was definitely meant to be born as a Leo. And a Leo is loyal as well. And
you have this golden lioness vibe to you, too.
It definitely fits my
aura.
Yeah. 100% my aura. But the lion also is quite, or the, whatever they call it, the king and queen of the jungle, called Queen of the Jungle, is she takes care of her tribe, and there is a sense of community around the lion, but they're also quiet until a point that you push too far. And I was telling Michelle a story over the weekend, and I said, this is what I had said to this group of Dragon Boat girls, and she's like, you said what? And I was like, you get to a point where you have so much patience, and then you just, I don't know, I didn't like snap berserko, but I just was like, enough. Yeah, it's having that level of patience for such a long time, and that maybe my golden aura, my hair, my personality, my loyalness, my loyalty. But were you...
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Like there's Kobe Bryant. He called himself the Black Mamba, literally just to tap into the spirit of something else that exists. So I was just curious if you had one. But I see that. I totally see the lioness and protector of the cubs. I can totally see
Protector of the people, my people. Yeah. Definitely protector of my people. There is this process that people go through it's not the word that's escaping me. Though someone we go through this meditation process with you, it'll come to me later, but you were like sort of given this spirit animal. And that I've not really done before, but I'm sure someone might be able to pinpoint a spirit animal that comes from like that other spiritual side, which I believe that I'm sure I have.
Yeah, I mean,
Shamanism, that's right.
Yeah,
that's the word.
They've really, they're not super tapped into the material world, right? So they have this like other perception. They have this whole other universe that they can operate in, and they know these things. I haven't sat with shamans. I'm going to, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah.
But I've watched so many videos. I think it's fascinating. So, like the ayahuasca trips, psychedelic journeys. That I haven't tapped into that world yet. And again, I'm not compelled to in the immediate because, again, I'm aligned right now on some other stuff, but totally going to be a part of my future. Totally.
Oh, absolutely. It's part of the wellness, the holistic approach to life. And when with my shift girls, we talk about not only going on holistic retreats that would accompany shamanism or whatever type of meditations you want to do, because we did do a sound bath together, which is very vibrational and channeling, which I loved, and I love the gong bath, which is the gong bath, which is like the big gongs.
Yeah.
Do you have a spirit animal?
No, but I do consciously think about things when I want to think about the spirit of certain things when I want to use the qualities of them when tapping into something.
Okay, I love that. I definitely, when I read things about the lion, I'll be like, that resonates. Even though I was born a month early, I was supposed to be born a Virgo.
I really do want to go on one of those journeys. I think it'd be interesting. And it might just be an experience, right? It might not be anything that feels like it impacts my core and who I am, but it might just be a great experience. I am excited for that. I know the circles that I'll be swimming in are going to be, those opportunities will present themselves. I happen to have, psychedelic experiences dead sober. So
Yes.
I don't necessarily want to fuck with that, but I don't think it will. That's the reason I haven't been drinking also.
Yeah, that's what you said. I should try that tactic.
Yeah, it's I don't know, I don't really know what to say. I never choose to do it, but it happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like a psychedelic would be an instant way to tap back into that and see what work needs to be done instead of being a little bit aimless. Because I don't really know what I'm doing there, to be honest. And I feel like if I was to expose myself more, I'd have a little bit more of an idea of what it really is, and I'd be able to orient myself. But again, that's just like, that's a future project.
And
I think there's some things on Earth that I need to do first.
We need to have projects constantly in motion. This is a project, in a good way,
Yeah.
a very good way. So, no, and I think I may have mentioned this before. A friend of mine recommended a book a couple of years ago, "How to Change Your Mind," by Michael, what's his name? And he talked all about the psychedelic world, where I want to even say, like, in the 60s, it was an option for people to take these psychedelic journeys during, like, depression, whatever they were labeled with, schizophrenia, bipolar, everything, all those things, even maybe ADHD or whatever those labels are and were, but taking these psychedelic journeys to get to the root of the problem, PTSD. So to take these journeys and to be like, oh wait, that's, instead of masking it with all the other synthetic drugs, which is what still has taken over the world.
Yeah.
But he's made it.
No, I mean, the clinical research on plant medicine is profound. It's very real.
Mm-hmm.
But another interesting concept is, have we actually sat down and asked, what is schizophrenia? Maybe they need a guide. Maybe they have a perception of things that we don't, and they need a guide. We call it delirium and we throw it under the rug and we call them witches, we kill them, and over thousands of years. But what if they're just perceiving things that we don't understand? If you look at the spectrum of light, we are just a tiny, tiny, tiny receiver within that spectrum. So there is so much going on around us that we don't actually perceive. And we can actually decide we can change that. You actually can change that. And
It says that, exactly what we just said. We're just a molecule, a minuscule of
Rick
all
Rubin.
this information that comes through us in every day, looking around the world.
Yeah, we are like a cell in this one being, where we're like a breath. Our life is like a breath.
That gives such context. If we could just sometimes recalibrate the nervous system and say that to ourselves. It's so, I mean, that's truth. I believe in that, that perspective. But when you think about when someone has said, I've been diagnosed with bipolar, I'm kind of like, well, what does that even mean? Bipolar is such a general term. It's almost like it was kind of I'm going to come up with this term in order to help people, categorize them, label them, whatever, put them in this, and then I can help them in this way, when really they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They still don't.
Yeah. I think one of the most sacred things that anyone should do is be careful about what you say you are.
Yeah.
Truly. And I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but don't ever say you are something like that.
I agree. And how about even a simple one where people are like, oh, I'm fat.
Don't say I'm fat.
Don't say
tired.
Don't say tired. Don't say sick.
It's real.
It's real.
It's very, very real. And I want that to get across through this microphone. Changes your life.
It is a massive shift in the mindset, 100%. And if you can say, when someone says that to me, I'm like, well, wait a second. What does that even mean? So if you dig into that, well, you mean you want to be fit. And you have to be fit in the mind and the body. You have to work on the mind first in order to be fit in the body. So you are just you're labeling yourself. You're putting yourself in this category. It's just so, it's diminishing.
We talked about this so many times, right? With manifesting, right? With manifesting, you can't separate the ideal image from your current existence. You can't say I'm going to be, or else you're always going to be in attainment. You're always chasing your tail. If you want to lose weight or gain weight or be this fit superhero, you have to be that person now. When you program that that's who you are, you're not going to pick up the potato chips, right? Like you're going to be like, all I want to do is be a healthy person, because that's a part of this image. And you're manifesting that. You're bringing that down to the world. When we were talking about relationships and friendships earlier, that's why you envision them in their perfect state. Get what I'm saying? Like you envision them in their perfect state, and then you're bringing heaven down to earth. You're collectively manifesting heaven on earth. And I believe that. I do. I believe that symbiosis I was talking about is just this reintegration, like coming back together.
I am. All comes back to home. I am. It's so much more powerful, and that's also the beginning of reprogramming your subconscious mind.
Yeah. I had to decide to be this person, right? And it's changing, and I'm not stuck to it at all. I'm not at all stuck to it. It's just like, but I will say, one of the reasons I always wanted to have a podcast was to prove that. Because I knew something was going to happen. I knew I was going to do something like important for the world. I wanted to give, and I felt that within me, right? And so what seemed valuable and what's fortunate about my generation is we grew up in the technology age where we can record the journey. A lot of people have done it at this point, but I just wanted to do that as well. I wanted to contribute to that, right? Like conviction before the manifestation. And I think that's valuable. So I'm excited to flex. But I think again, I couldn't give less of a fuck about anything. Like I really couldn't. But that is like the general paradigm of what it means to be successful. Again, my version of success is my conviction. Having the conviction is my success. I feel so good because what makes me feel good comes from within.
It's the internal. Tenfolds.
Yeah.
It's always internal.
And since you are me and since I am you, I hope you do that too.
I am. Fill in the fucking blank with whatever you want.
Yeah.
No, that's, and as you said, like it's purposeful conviction. It's purposeful flexing.
Yeah. But it's like almost because it's like the collective paradigm that is attainment, right? But I'll say before this, like I don't like things. Like every time we've recorded, I've probably worn the exact same outfit.
Yeah.
I just have black. I don't care. Like I don't want things. And again, because it's like they are as little as possible of a distraction I have from latching any like bit of my identity onto anything, the better. I do like style. Again, like I do like fashion. I do like drip. You have swag outfits every time we come in here, and I'm like, damn, like maybe I should step one day, right? Like maybe I should go and.
But what you wear suits you.
Just for now, right? For now, this is just what my avatar looks like right now, and it's important to just do what feels best.
I was given this sweatshirt before I left Miami, and from my friend's daughter, so I'm representing her. Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize until you were wearing the off-whites last time we recorded that you just have incredible shoe game.
I got a good shoe game.
I was pretty blown away.
Thank you. I do like my, I'm not and by the way, I'm happy to get these off of I got these off of Amazon. It's not like, and then my brother will say, are those those aren't real, blah, blah, blah. I was like, dude, I wear the clothes. They don't wear me. And I'm very happy making it into the outfit. And I dress in my style, whatever style suits me.
Yeah.
And so that's the most important. But I do love sneakers.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be $300 sneakers. They just have to be whatever I want them to be. From buying them at Marshall's or TJ Maxx to Amazon to the real thing.
Yeah. I used to actively not wear anything that anyone owns. So I'd wear like random brands so that it was just very unique to me. Mm-hmm. People would ask where I got things and I wouldn't tell them. And I would do this whole thing. But then I realized that that's another version of imprisonment. Mm-hmm. Actively not wanting to be like anybody is another version of imprisonment. So now I wear Allbirds sometimes because they're the most comfortable shoes on earth. And
I've heard they are.
They're not beautiful at all, but like
okay.
They just feel like I'm barefoot.
But I've heard that they are.
Actually, I lace them differently than everybody else.
I saw that.
So
there you go.
I
was going to ask the bows on the bottom, the ties on the bottom. So you made it your own version. You put your own swag into your Allbirds.
I won't call it a disease.
Well, that's a dis-ease. My friend Evelyn, she bought a couple things recently, and she sent a picture of some or told me about some others, and some specific things that I've worn before myself. And she's like, I bought these things because it's bringing her out of her. She dresses beautifully, and it also in a sense has brought her a little bit out of her comfort zone of like, this is how old I am, and I was like, fuck that. It doesn't matter how old you are, your age, or how many kids you have. You dress the way you want to dress, and not give a fuck. So these particular items on her, she did such a great job, and she was like, you inspired me to step out of my comfort zone to buy these things, because it's like, well, if Ashley can do it, and it's like, hell yeah, you can do it too. That is the highest form of compliment when someone is asking you. That's why I was like bringing it back around to when people say, where'd you get those? It's like, just because it looks good on you doesn't mean it necessarily it's going to look good on them, but at least it's there. And you complimented what I was wearing last time we met. And so that, no, I find that to be, it doesn't like bloat my ego, it just makes me, I don't know, I like it coming from somebody that I also admire myself and want to emulate. So it's like it's complimentary. It's not coming from like a disdain of like, where'd you get that?
It's showing love. I think part of the culture of like sneakers and part of the culture of just fashion in general is the admiration, is like how people piece things together. It's the puzzle. It's like the breaking the boundaries. Virgil Abloh, like the guy who made Off-White, the shoes you were wearing, he's the one who merged two worlds together, right? He took streetwear and high fashion and made it one thing. He did that for Louis Vuitton, and then he did that for Off-White, right? Like, he broke the barriers. And I think, like, that is the intercourse we do, like, when we're creating things. That is the masculine and the feminine coming together and creating an infant. There was a master class with, I never really read his books, but Neil Gaiman. And Neil Gaiman talks about how to be creative, how to create. And he talks about the merging of worlds. And it's so perfect, because he just says, you take one world, you take another world, and you make them have a fucking baby. Right? And there's something about that, right? Like Virgil did that. That's such a perfect example. You take luxury and streetwear and you make something completely new out of it. You bring two worlds together. You bring two audiences together, right? And if you're blurring the lines, like there is something about that happening. Like these are the layers that we're overlapping throughout society to get back to oneness. So not to make that spiritual, but it's truly like there's something about it. There's something about it. The other thing about fashion is like, if you're technically not fashionable or you're stuck in the past, just wait 20 years and it'll be in vogue again. So just stick to what is comfortable on you. And I do think that it's important to push boundaries and step out of your comfort zone, because it teaches you how to express yourself. It also teaches you how to not latch yourself on to a certain old self, but at the same time, it should be what makes you feel the best. What you wear should make you feel the best. And that's when you look like you're in good fashion. Like if it fits you well and it makes you feel graceful and you can move, that is form, right? And there's, there are qualities that are, when it comes to any kind of art and any type of representation, where it's like, there is the picture, but it's a moving picture. There's a silhouette. There's so many considerations that need to come into the embodiment that you are showing off to the world. So I think it's a fun game. I'm not against such a digression. I do love that world, long story short, and I'm wearing black. I'm wearing a sweatsuit and all birds.
White, all birds.
Yeah.
You're the yin and the yang at the moment of your color coordination. But that's the beauty of collaboration in all aspects of bringing different worlds together.
That's what we're doing.
We're collaborating.
We're bringing two worlds together.
We are bringing two worlds together through our version of collaboration, or whatever word you want to use. We're like, I don't know, melting it. I'm trying to think like visually how to that. And if you think about musicians in that sense, they've been doing it for a long time, where it's, Run DMC and Aerosmith. Hello.
Yep.
One of the most amazing collaborations. Yep. Metallica and the Symphony.
That was Rick Rubin, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Rick.
Yeah.
That's right. It was him.
Yeah.
It was him. I don't know if he did the Metallica Symphony one though.
I think he did too.
Oh my God! Like, some of my favorite music to listen to is when Metallica jams out with the symphony.
Yeah.
It gives me goosebumps. I love it. And now I'm gonna make a new playlist with just all those kind of musicians.
Yeah.
But and I love like the National guy, whatever his name is, I can't remember his name at the moment, from the group National, and Taylor Swift. It's called The Alcott. Again, goosebumps. And I envision myself, like he talks about this girl who sits in a cafe journaling about the love they used to have. And I was like, yes. I mean, it's just, his voice with her voice is so powerful. And if they didn't collaborate, like the world would be missing out on that. We would be missing out on, or eventually it would hopefully come to fruition. But if we didn't meld the worlds together and find that commonality, it can work. It can work.
That's the beauty of individuation.
Mm-hmm.
The more we individuate, the paradox is the more we become one. It's so cool. Like, that is the actual pattern of what we're doing. But we think we have to be like others, and that actually is counterintuitive. Like, it does the opposite of what we think we're doing. But again, the people who do latch their identities on to like what an influencer is doing or what a celebrity is doing, those are people who are reactive, right? So they react to the world around them. They're effects, they're not causes. And so the second you go inward, you become a cause, and you say, I like this is me, this is unique to me. And that cause can create. The causes can mend worlds. Effects don't mend worlds. They're worlds that were already created. But if you become a cause with another cause, that's when newness is birthed into the world.
Mm-hmm.
That was a confusing one, I feel like.
I guess what I take from that is like...
I'm going to cut that one out.
Don't cut it out. Listen to it again. But it's that, the newness of inspiring my friend to go out and buy some things that were like, oh, and it doesn't mean she's gonna wear it the exact same way, but what it's about being creative and allowing her to be her own individual. Because I look for inspiration on Pinterest. I look for inspiration. We have to look for inspiration. That's where their ideas came from other people's ideas.
Yeah.
Ideas are cyclical. They just are infinite.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that top looks really good, in that way, or those jeans, whatever. So I'm like, I'm gonna put it with a button down, or I'm gonna put it right. So that's just like, it all starts with inspiration and creation.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that's to be, but still, I feel like I'm still an individual and my own person, because I'm not stealing any ideas. I'm actually elaborating on those ideas.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing in this conversation. All the things that conversations we've ever had, all the things we've ever watched, all the things we've ever read are coming out through our mouths right now, right? And it's just like our unique take on it. Going back to Virgil, he put out his design language. He put a master class out. He has all of his gold is on YouTube if you wanted to look it up, on how to create a design language, on how to build like a brand and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And one of his things is like iterate 3%. So everything he does in his designs is like not new, stuff that's been done. He takes like Dadaism from Duchamp, like the toilet that says the fountain, right? The artist proclaims what it is, not the viewer, right?
Right.
Then he takes all these designs and puts words in quotes, right? Like, so they're like tiny little design details that he does, but he's completely unapologetic about it. He's like, I take the exact same design and I put my twist on it.
And that's how you know exactly what he's saying. And that's what's so impactful about what he's doing. I love his stuff.
That alleviates competition. That's in a way that's like, why he's not competing with anybody else.
It's not competition,
It's
right?
not competition.
It's like we're all devoting our energy to this one beautiful tapestry.
He's bringing so much together in such a beautiful, harmonious way. There's harmony in that.
Yeah.
Why are you? And he, even if those sneakers never sold for anything, he's like, I probably doesn't give a fuck. He's like, I created that. And I love that people love it.
This goes back to our legacy conversation, right? Like his legacy, and then Duchamp's legacy, and all the other artists that preceded him that he studied created Virgil Abloh. Virgil Abloh was a very real part of my life. He's the reason I did that whole project with the model that we're talking about, the photography project, the whole brand I created. It was because he died, and I realized, wow, he has something to teach me that's going to put me on the path. And so he's an archetype there. Anthony Bourdain's an archetype there, right? So I do.
So Virgil's another synchronicity between us.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
painted a painting of his because not a painting of his, but I painted. It was a red canvas with scratches all over, and then in quotes it said Aeneid. And Aeneid, Virgil was a writer, probably similar vibe of like a Homer, right? And Virgil's Aeneid was this long parable that kind of just talks about the human experience. And when he died, his work burned. And so 2 of his disciples tried to rewrite it, right? And so I thought that was pretty empowering because Virgil inspired me when he died. And I was rewriting some of his work with some of the work I was doing because that's the code he gave me. And so I wrote the Aeneid. It was Virgil's Aeneid because I wrote Aeneid in his off-white quotes on a painting.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Where's that?
It's in a Cube Smart somewhere in Austin, Texas.
As long as it's still present and it hasn't been burned. Oh, that's funny. Do you have a photo of it?
I do.
I'd like a visual on that.
What's so cool about iPhone now is you can just go to photos and search. Like I can just search Aeneid.
Haven't they always had that?
And it'll pop up, the painting will pop
Oh
up.
wow, that's amazing. You did that?
Yeah, hold on.
Can you put in a start? I wanna commission you for a piece. I commission you with drinks.
Yeah. But
That's amazing.
thanks.
That looks pretty badass in your wherever you live one day in this cool like studio, big open floor plan.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Isn't that funny? Like the sneakers I was wearing, you knew exactly from that, and I didn't even know. I just knew I liked the color. I love the color. Emerald green is like one of my favorite colors.
Oh, I'm very astute to the sneaker game. Before I could get a job, what I would do is I would buy and sell sneakers, and I would flip them. So I was like a little high school kid, and I'd buy like a couple pairs of whatever. Started off with like one pair of like foam posits, sold them, took the money I made from that, and like started buying more and more pairs and flipping them, because when a sought after shoe hits retail, they sell out, and so there's an aftermarket. A huge subculture is the aftermarket for sought after shoes, right? And I just tapped into that with some of my buds. I think it was just because I was playing basketball at the time.
Right.
And it was so funny. I was this cute little chubby 14-year-old kid buying size 13 shoes, selling them to guys who could easily just rob my ass.
Yeah, right.
But it was, I guess, like as a part of the entrepreneur story, that's definitely going to be a piece of the puzzle.
That was very entrepreneurial of you.
Yeah.
And actually, you should talk to Sebastian about that, because he's so watches things like that, and I kind of am like, here's like $200, find something, and then keep it going. But he also was the one that encouraged me to. He's like, he loves, like whenever I dress a certain way, most ways he's first of all, he'll be like, why did you not get me that same outfit? Something I wore on New Year's Eve. It's just like cream colored tracksuit from Nike, and then which I think you would appreciate. I'll wear it another time. But he and there was like this, I just wore like my black blazer and like my black shiny pants, and on when I went out for the weekend, he's just like, I really like your outfit, mommy. And he's just so in tune with fashion. Doesn't have to be expensive, but he is aware of that. Yeah. He does care about it in a way that's
drip recognizes drip.
But I should tell him to channel that, like.
It's such a good conversation starter because, you know, if a guy's hitting on a girl, everyone says, I like your shoes. Then you know that the guy is just hitting on you, right? But if you come up to someone and you recognize that they're wearing a piece that was very intentional, they're going to immediately start talking about things you're passionate about, and that creates a real relationship. And that's why fashion could be a good tool, you know?
So is that what Brenda's trying to say about my hat?
Brenda?
Brendan.
Brendan.
The guy, the
I think he's trying to be endearing, where he's saying you're not your hat. There's a beautiful little passion in there.
But yeah, I love that. It's and why just not just the shoes, but like one. But if they say I like your shoes because XYZ.
But if you just say it, it's like
like
if someone said I like your shoes to me right now.
Right.
I'd be like, I'm wearing Allbirds. What do you want to talk about? What do you really mean, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a difference, right? And if you recognize something, that means you both have a similar interest, and you can explore that. So it can be like it's good to express yourself because that helps you find your tribe. They're beacons.
That's a great word to use. They are beacons. It does remind me of like. Oh, when I was wearing a blazer, and then this other person at a dinner party was wearing a blazer, but it was a man, and we both had white linen blazers on. So I was like, nice jacket, you know. And so we did strike up a conversation, and I mean, friends with their family since to this day, but there was a commonality between us, and I think that that's a good point because for me, blazers are one of my main staples. Well, this is a longer blazer today, but yeah.
Woman in a tux.
Woman in a tux. Yeah.
Yeah, so you got some branding, some personal branding. When are you gonna make some alternative space stuff?
Did you see my one from yesterday? I have a Pinterest page. I'll show you. It's called Shift. It's for the Shift girls, but like.
How's that going, by the way?
Well, everyone's been quiet because everyone's been on holiday. So I just said to them yesterday, we need to reconvene tomorrow. So I think that's a yes from them. Only way forward.
Did you guys edit the first episode?
Blair was taking a look at it, listening to it again. We all listened to it again, and it's good. It's really good. I'm happy for these girls. I think they sound really solid. And now I have to tell them. I did tell them that we gave a plug last week. In the episode, but they have to listen to the plug.
It was episode 5.
Oh, that was 5, not 6. Was it 5?
I think so.
Man, how are we going to remember all this? You know what I thought about? When I listen to different podcasts, it's okay if we're repetitive because maybe not everybody listens to 1 through 7.
For sure.
We jump around a bit, so. And also, the more you say things, the more they resonate. Yeah,
I mean, I have very simple beliefs. Like, very simple. So, I could probably make one podcast and it potentially be my life statement.
What do you think? Want to do it?
I mean, this is just like, it just goes to show, right? Like, we're here to do more, right? Yeah. It's like, this isn't my answer to that, but what we're doing here, it's like human beings have this lack of knowledge, this separation from certain knowledge and this inkling that exists. And so the ultimate thing that we're all here doing is like, we're in pursuit of truth. So we're out, we're explorers, we are learners, we're scientists, we are spiritual, we are philosophers, right? We are venturing out into the universe and then into the mind, into the psyche, and through the body to figure out what's going on, right? Simultaneously, we are subject to the illusion of time because that is a part of the experience that we're here enduring. And while we do that, We entertain ourselves. There's war, there's destruction, there's beauty, we smoke cigarettes, we have sex, like that's the human experience, right? So there is the commentary involved with this greater thing we're doing, which is why we talk about it. We are entertainers. We're not teaching people how to do it, right? Like, we are entertainers, but as we become more clear on what it is that this life is about for ourselves, our surroundings are as well. You know, it's as I've said, none of these ideas are ours. They're just, we're vessels, and we're witnessing how they come through us. And they're happening to this greater macrocosm as they're happening to us. And we are just a part of that, right? We are just a part of that. So it's a beautiful, beautiful dance. And when you look at that picture and really look at that picture, you realize that that's what it's all about. It's just to experience this, right? This expansion and then this return.
Earlier when we were talking about art and the collaborations, the word dance came to mind, and you just reminded me when you said dance. It is a dance.
It's not about when you start and how fast you finish. It's not about where you start on the dance floor and where you end on the dance floor. It's about how good you dance, how much you let out.
It's such a release.
When I was in Austin, one of the first nights, right on South Congress Avenue, and I could take a penny and throw it off my balcony and hit this club called the Continental Club. And the way I always describe this, I've actually written about this, is there is this like janky little club where it looks like the ceiling fans are gonna oscillate off the ceiling and just like kill somebody. And if you were to ask a bartender for like a cocktail, they'd be like, "Here's a beer." You know what I mean? But the performers in there are so good, and the soul in there is so fun. And one of the first nights I was there, I saw everyone dancing, right? But they have like the two-step and the swing, and these are things that I'm not familiar with. I came to that world more of a fist bumper, techno rave guy, so it was new to me. And I saw this beautiful woman walk in, and she was just wearing like a red dress, and it was so out of place. You know, she was like a sore thumb in this place. She walked in, and I saw this cowboy-looking guy with slick back hair, wasn't that good looking, he's just a sharp dude. And I saw him grab her hand and just spin her around and sweep her off her feet, and they were just this beautiful production of movement that I've never seen or witnessed in person in my entire life. And in the way she was looking at him, she was just like, he took her into his universe, and she had no say in it.
Right. And
when I witnessed that, I was like, well,
not sure she's gonna dance with me after that. That's funny.
So I told myself I'm gonna learn to dance while I was in Austin. That way, right? I needed to learn that way.
That's awesome.
But ultimately, I don't think you need to know how to move. I think you just need to move your heart out. Like, it feels so good. It feels so good.
Oh, just to go and release and move,
just
and
wiggle around,
and be in the wiggle around, be in the moment of music, and let the music entertain you and just enter you and just vibe with that. And I mean, you know, it's like when someone runs. So when I was doing my half, one of the things I thought about was like
half marathon.
My half marathon. I said, Ashley, fucking move your ass. Like, you are finishing this. You could be on the dance floor for 3 hours and dance your ass off. But then when I mean, obviously running it's comparable. But that's what that was like what I was telling myself. I was picturing myself on the dance floor, envisioning that, which you can't pull the girlfriend off. Like, I am there with whoever, and it's really hard for me to get off and stop dancing when that music is playing. It's like, just one more song. Yeah. And I told myself that as I was running the half, and I ran it, and I told you less than that. But
the juxtaposition there is really interesting. You were talking about, you know, going through the half marathon, and then also the movement of dancing, and the human body is this like exquisite tool, because with dancing, or let's start with exercise. When you're exercising, you are really just taming your animal, right? You were taming your animal. You were like, you are going to go through this torture so that you can endure anything for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I punish myself, but when I'm in the state of torture, I just take a step out and I'm like, you're just taming the animal. That's what you're doing. Tame this beast because it's gonna serve you. It's gonna keep you balanced later on, right? You let this out. But with dancing, you're not taming an animal. You're letting your soul free. Yeah. You're letting your soul free, and it's so interesting how the body is actually a tool in order to, like, actually do this witchcraft through movement.
Oh no, that there was a definite juxtaposition, and I knew that but it was that mind over matter of I can do this when I was under that constraint of like getting through this mission.
Yeah.
Because there is something to the fact that like, okay, there's endurance in there, there's, whatever it is, and that's why, and that's another reason why I'm like, girls who wear heels to dance clubs makes no sense to me. You might look beautiful and sexy when they walk in. I'm like, I'm the girl dancing for the next 4 hours. You're gonna take those off. Women learn the hard way when we do those things, but
God bless them.
Oh man.
I have this group chat with some of my buds. It's called Beats, Bumps, and Bangers. And so
is it beats?
Beats, Bumps, and Bangers.
Bumps and bangers. Okay.
And we always just like, whenever we come across a good song, we throw it in the chat.
Oh, nice.
And there was this point in time where on Fridays, we'd get excited before going out. We'd always be like listening to certain types of music. So we have a bunch of just videos recording ourselves like in front of the mirror, just going off. Just going off.
I would love to see this.
Okay, let's see if I have something to embarrass myself with in here.
Awesome. Embarrass away.
You will laugh at these.
I'm laughing with you.
Alright.
Want some lip gloss?
Not today.
Okay. Because you love that.
We would all just send these to each other on Friday.
When was this?
This was like over the last couple months.
Gosh.
Every Friday, we would just each send each other a rendition to get each other hyped up because we're all in different parts of the country now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Were you actually going out?
This is right before, like about to shower, about to go out.
Was this March?
Yeah.
Almost a year ago? Were you sober?
Probably.
Oh my God, I love you even more now. See, that's something Sebastian and I would do.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. What song is that? I love that technical
I'll send
stuff.
it to you.
I think if you were dancing like that, the girl in the red would have come up to you.
That would be hilarious. She definitely would have.
She definitely would have.
But she actually definitely would have. And she would give me water. And then she'd go back to the other man.
Honey, you okay?
Oh, man. That was such an important moment in life. Another woman in the red dress. There's this moment. I took a trip to right when I graduated, I did this like China and Tokyo trip. China a little bit with my best friend at the time, and then I went to Japan. I stayed with my friend Nadia, who spoke half Japanese, half English, and we were in like big parts of Tokyo, so most people spoke English. So I was like socializing, having the time of my life. But then I had a few more days left in Beijing alone. I was in this like really cool post-war art district in Beijing. It's really, really...
I know exactly where you were.
Yeah, like northeast section.
It's called like 679 or whatever it's called.
Yes.
It's got some three numbers.
Yeah. And while I was there, it was fun, but there were not a lot of English speakers. So I remember I spent like a good amount of the rest of that trip admiring in my own world, right? There was a Picasso exhibit, which was awesome. There was a ton of cool art, but I had no one to share it with. And that was a real moment. And so I remember I was walking down the streets one day. I was definitely a sore thumb, right? I was the only non-Chinese person there. Really not even tourists. But then, out of nowhere, an absolutely perfect woman walked by, definitely American or European, walked by me, definite supermodel, right? Just class act. And I paused in my tracks and I couldn't say a word because I was so unused. A, she was just like profoundly beautiful,
Yeah.
but B, I was just so used to being in my own world that I didn't know how to just connect with her. And I always think about like what could have been, and that's not a way to live, but it's like you missed out, man. You missed out on that whole experience.
Right.
And even if it's just a conversation and the ability to say what a crazy place we're in right now, and just like even if it's one word back and forth, I missed out on that. And so I always say the woman in the red dress is her, right? Like, and I took that from the Matrix. This woman wasn't wearing a red dress.
I was gonna say, was she another person wearing a red dress?
But I use it as like a pause in the Matrix, like a blip in the Matrix,
Yeah.
where if you're not looking close enough and if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss out on something.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, talk to the person next to you.
Right. And you know, the perspective of people who are attractive probably don't get approached that often because, and can't necessarily help the way you look, and you're like, well, I'm just gonna look the way I look and walk down the street and be the supermodel and dress the way she was dressed, and but then that can be, because of their exterior beauty, can be intimidating to others, so less people probably approach her and talk to her, and that's a world that she probably lives in. And then whoever does talk to her is somebody who's quite confident, and not that you aren't and weren't, but it's a learnable moment.
Yeah.
And I even had this with a friend, and when I was in Miami, I was like, wow. And she was a couple girls sitting next to me, and I was like, this dude ran past super. I was like and I don't really stop in the dog look at people, and he didn't see me, but I was like, oh my god, what would I even say to him? She's like, hi. I'm like, I would never do that. She's like, you're ridiculous. Like, what? And obviously I'm married with kids, but I'm like, she's like, doesn't mean you can't just say hi to him, and who knows, maybe he'll be gay or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm like, but he's so good looking. And she's like, do you know how many people probably say that and think that, and then they don't say anything to him because of his looks? And I was like, I know. I was like, that wasn't a shallow thing, but I just thought it was more of a, instead of looking at it in a sense of like, let it unravel the way it should unravel and just say hi, he would appreciate that. So no, I think there's that's the learnable moment of just saying hi to people.
I think that's great. I think just in general, people should engage one another. You know, that creates an opportunity for magic to happen in the world, right? Even if it's not about attraction at all. Like, talk to people, talk to people.
It's a different attraction.
Again, they're you, right? And you learn, and like, things happen that way. You have to play in the real world, right? And you have to play in the world.